So recently I made this and I thought I'd show you how to go from the guitar on the left to the guitar on the right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use some radial gradients. And so, you can choose like a foreground color and then have it go to transparency. So that's what I'm doing here, just choosing some orange. And I like using radial gradients because I can kind of just build up the edges. So I'm just going with like a 10% opacity on the radial gradient and just kind of pulling that out, okay? Then I'm going to find some rake brushes. You can add brushes to Photoshop by going through Kyle Webster there at the bottom, and you can click add. And I found these rake brushes that are going to give me kind of a broken line. You don't have to use this. You could just do a bunch of lines, but this will be quicker. And so then I'm going to change colors a few times here. And in a minute, I'm going to come in and kind of blend this. So right now it looks really ugly. But I'm going for that kind of like a flame top that they've got there. And so if you go in and you choose multiply or color burn or overlay or screen, it's going to change. And Photoshop has this cool thing now where you can actually preview it as you just mouse over. And so ended up with overlay. And now I'm going to come in and start adjusting the hue. So Hue Saturation Adjustment, you can press Control U, Command U on a Mac. And you can adjust the color, the vibrancy, and the brightness there. So that's hue, saturation, and brightness. Kind of dial that in. Drop the opacity a little bit until I like it. And then in a minute here, I'm going to duplicate that layer and just shift it over with my arrow keys. And so you'll see me kind of duplicate, shift that over so I get a little bit like that. And then you can change that. Now, I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw some opaque white. And then we'll choose a blending mode again. This time I think I'm going to go with, let's see, screen probably, because screen mixes once you drop the opacity. And I'm going for that sheen of the guitar, right? And so we're going to blur the edges a little bit with a Gaussian blur filter. And then kind of get that nice sheen. And now I'm going to add a mask on it. And I'm going to go back to my radial gradient, but this time with black. And I'm just going to kind of like have the edges kind of fade out. I've noticed that with highlights, as they get away from the source, they kind of get a little bit lighter. And so I'm just going to kind of just pull this in. This time I'm using a 50% opacity on the radial gradient, and I'm doing it on the mask. And so if you can see over here on the right, you can see I'm kind of building up these little spots of gray and black. And then I'm just going to come in and do an adjustment on the opacity of this entire layer again. So kind of pull that down. Then we'll do the same thing with shadows, this time painting black instead of white. And we'll go in and we'll use multiply. Kind of select everything, create a layer, fill that layer with a color, and then if you press Alt or Option and click in between those layers, it applies that as if it's a mask. Now we're just going to go in and paint some chrome. Really, the shinier something is, the higher the contrast between the highlights and the shadows. And so I'm just going to kind of do pretty bright and pretty dark. And that brings us to this guitar. So there's the beginning and the end of that. I thought it turned out pretty good. And here's another guitar I did kind of using the same effect. So if you liked this and you want to see other things that I've made, then go to CoryKerr.com or subscribe, ring the bell, hit the thing, do the thumbs up, all that jazz. We'll catch you guys later. I'm out.